What if the oldest spiritual root of humanity had been erased from its memory? Stop and think. How many times have you felt something inside you yearning for a deeper meaning? A force that doesn't come from traditional religions, but from something ancestral, pulsating, almost forgotten. What if I told you that there is an ancient spiritual key, powerful, transformative, alive, and that it has been hidden from you? This key has a name: African spirituality. A system of wisdom as old as humanity itself, a direct connection with the elements of nature, with spirits, with the cycles of life, and with the true essence of being. And why, then, has it been marginalized, distorted, and even demonized for centuries? Because it is too powerful. Because it liberates. African spirituality is not just a belief, it is a map of the soul, a complete spiritual system that teaches how to reconnect with your ancestry, your purpose, and your inner power. It is not based on fear, but on connection. It does not impose dogmas, but reveals paths, and most impressively, it has survived. Even after attempts to extinguish it with fire, steel, and colonization, it is still here, alive, pulsating, ready to be rediscovered. The question that begs to be asked is, why was this hidden from us? Why was such profound wisdom, so connected to the universe, silenced? Because it teaches humankind to be free. Because it teaches that God is not distant. He is within you, in the winds, in the waters, in your ancestors, in your conscience. Many associate African spirituality solely with specific rituals or religions, but this is a limited and often prejudiced view. What few know is that this spirituality carries universal truths about the body, soul, and spirit, truths that resonate with quantum physics, natural medicine, and depth psychology. She teaches us that we are energy, that Akse, vital force, flows in everything that lives, that Ori, our spiritual head, is our true guide, that the Orishas, far beyond being entities, are manifestations of creation itself, spiritual archetypes that exist within and outside of us. It is no coincidence that the oldest African cultures had advanced knowledge of astronomy, herbal healing, spiritual reading, dream interpretation, and connection to invisible worlds. None of this was superstition. It was spiritual science. It was ancient wisdom. It was, and still is, the key that connects us to our true power. But this power was considered too dangerous. Governments, religions, and systems of domination knew that if this wisdom reached you, you would awaken. You would cease to be manipulated. You would reconnect with your soul's purpose. You would begin to walk with awareness, firmness, and light. That's why they hid it. They kept quiet. They distorted it. They said it was wrong, forbidden, demonic. But the time has come to break the silence. The time has come to remember. What you are about to discover in this video may completely change your perspective on spirituality, faith, and identity. And more than that, it may awaken something within you that has been dormant for a long time. Because African spirituality is not just external knowledge. It is an ancestral memory that lives within you, waiting for the right moment to be reactivated. And perhaps that moment is now. But before we delve deeper into this ancient mystery, I want to ask you something very important. If you've ever felt that this content is opening doors within you, if something inside you is starting to awaken, leave a like right now. This shows YouTube that this topic is relevant and helps us bring this message to thousands of other people who also need to reconnect with their spiritual roots. And more. Share in the comments what has touched you the most so far. Have you ever had a spiritual experience that you couldn't explain? Have you ever felt a presence, a calling, or a connection that seemed to come from another plane? I read all the comments carefully because this space is ours. It's sacred. Oh, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Here, with each video, we delve deeper into topics that have been hidden, silenced, and forgotten. Together, we are building a path of awareness, liberation, and truth. Now, take a deep breath, because what comes next will take you straight back to the origins. We're going to reveal how it all began. African spirituality wasn't born by chance. It was forged in the direct connection between heaven and earth. And when you understand this origin, you will realize that the key you were missing was always inside you. Let's continue. Let's move forward together. Because to understand why African spirituality is so powerful, we need to go back in time. Long before organized religions, dogmas, and the structures we know today, there were peoples who looked to the sky, to the earth, and within themselves with such a profound understanding of existence that even today science tries to reach that same level of wisdom. This wisdom originated in Kemet, the original name of what we now call Egypt. Kemet was not just an ancient civilization, but an inexhaustible source of spiritual, energetic, and philosophical knowledge. There, the ancient Africans did not separate the visible from the invisible. There was no difference between the spiritual world and the physical world. Everything was one. Everything was energy. Everything was spirit in motion. Have you ever heard of Ka and Ba? These two terms, present in the spiritual traditions of ancient Egypt, represent much more than mystical concepts. Ka is the life force, the energetic essence that sustains us. Ba, on the other hand, is the spiritual personality, our eternal identity, which continues the journey even after physical death. For African ancestors, understanding Ka and Ba meant understanding that life does not end when the body stops breathing. Life is a cycle. Existence is continuous. The spirit is eternal. And that wasn't all. The ancient initiation schools on the banks of the Nile and in the depths of the sacred forests of West Africa prepared the chosen ones, men and women, to access the knowledge of the higher worlds. Knowledge that was not written in books, but transmitted through the vibration of the word, through the drum, through dance, through silence. Knowledge that came from Orun, the higher spiritual plane. In the universe of Yoruba spirituality, which spread throughout various regions of West Africa, including Benin and Nigeria, this plane called Orun is the place where the ancestors, the Orishas, and the spiritual forces that guide and protect each human being live. Orun is the abode of mysteries, of origin, of pure energy, and it is through Akse, this sacred, invisible, and creative force, that everything manifests on earth. Akse is not just an abstract power. It is movement. It is vibration. It is what allows prayer to have strength, ritual to work, healing to happen. It is Akse that activates the word. It is Akse that responds to faith, and each person carries within themselves a unique amount of Akse, which can be cultivated, expanded, strengthened, or forgotten, dormant, drained. And that brings us to a profound concept, perhaps one of the most important, Ori. Ori, in Yoruba, means head, but it's not just the physical head. Ori is the individual divine consciousness. It's your higher spiritual self. It's your destiny. It's the spark of God that dwells within you and guides you, if you know how to listen. In other words, your Ori is your inner master. It's what accepts or rejects your path even before you are born. That's why in the African spiritual tradition, honoring one's own Ori is more important than any external ritual. Because if you are disconnected from your Ori, it's useless to pray, cry out, sacrifice, or seek. Nothing will flow. And this is one of the greatest riches of African spirituality. It teaches that the divine is not outside. It is not confined to temples. It does not depend on intermediaries. The divine is within you. It is in your body. It is in your mind. It is in your Akse, spiritual energy. It is in your Ori, spiritual essence. It is such profound wisdom that it naturally frightens the systems of control. Because a person who knows their own spiritual power is not manipulable. They do not live in fear. They do not bow to any voice of authority, because they already recognize within themselves the true authority, the voice of the spirit. And this spirit does not walk alone. It is connected to nature, to the wind, to the water, to the fire, to the earth, to the thunder, to the forest, to the rivers, not out of superstition, but because each element of nature carries a spiritual archetype. Every visible force is a reflection of an invisible force, and every manifestation of nature is also a divine expression. That is why in African spirituality the river is sacred, the stone is sacred, the leaf has Akse, spiritual energy, the rain speaks, silence listens, and humankind is not above creation, it is part of it. The initiation tribes, scattered throughout the African continent, understood this with a depth that astonishes even modern scholars. The birth of a child, for example, was greeted with a listening ritual. The elder would place his ear close to the newborn and ask, "Who are you? Where do you come from? What have you come here to do?" Because they knew that the spirit chooses where to be born. They knew that each one brings a mission, a spiritual function, and that listening is more sacred than teaching. This relationship with the invisible is so natural in African traditions that it seems magical to those who have been taught to distrust everything that cannot be seen. But here is the central point. The African spiritual world does not need to be proven. It needs to be lived. If you stop to feel, you will realize. You will feel a chill down your spine when you hear a drum. You will be moved by a chant you don't understand, but that stirs something that was hidden inside. You will have dreams that seem more real than the day. You will find yourself crying, without knowing why, when you hear someone talk about your Ori. This is not madness. This is spiritual memory being activated. Therefore, the further we distance ourselves from these roots, the more we feel the emptiness, an emptiness that no modern church can fill. Because it's not an emptiness of belief, it's an emptiness of identity, a hole left by the rupture with our ancestors. And African spirituality is the thread that stitches this hole together, that reconnects what was broken, that restores what was lost. Many who approach this path for the first time still carry doubts, fears, and prejudices, but it's only the echo of what was taught by those who didn't want this wisdom to flourish. The truth is, deep down, you already know all of this, because it's engraved in your soul. It's written in your blood. It's in your spiritual DNA. And if you felt this vibration flowing through you so far, I want to invite you to keep watching. Because in the next moment, we're going to delve even deeper into this wisdom that comes from the womb of the earth. We're going to understand how these forces of nature manifest in our daily lives, how they communicate with us, and how you can begin to perceive the signs that your own spirituality has been sending you for a long time. Before that, comment below. Had you ever heard of Ori, of Akse, of Ka and Ba? What did this awaken in you? Write the phrase, "My spirituality is awakening" in the comments if this video is reminding you of something you didn't even know you had forgotten. Your comment can inspire other people who, like you, are in this process of reconnection. And now that you've started to remember what your soul already knew, perhaps the question echoing inside is, if all this is so profound, so powerful, so true, why was I never told? Why did I spend my life thinking that African spirituality was something negative, dangerous, even demonic? The answer is simple, but painful, because it is too powerful for a system that depends on spiritually weakened people. And what is very powerful? The system tries to silence. For centuries, everything that came from Africa was degraded, distorted, corrupted. But why? Because it wasn't just about territory or material wealth. Africa wasn't just a continent full of natural resources. Above all, it was the cradle of humanity's original spirituality. And within that spirituality, there were codes, knowledge, and rituals that connected human beings directly to the divine, without the need for intermediaries, without the need for institutions. This instilled fear in those who sought control. With the arrival of colonization and the imposition of Eurocentric religions, one of the greatest campaigns of spiritual erasure in human history began. Entire peoples were forced to abandon their gods, their orishas, their symbols, their rites. Everything that connected these peoples to the sacred was labeled witchcraft, sorcery, idolatry. Ancestral spirituality, which was once lived with reverence, began to be violently persecuted. The colonizers didn't just want to occupy territories, they wanted to control minds. And they knew that as long as a people kept their spiritual connection alive, they would never be completely enslaved. Therefore, one of the invaders' first actions was to destroy the sacred spaces, burn the sacred instruments, prohibit the songs, the African names, the dialects. They knew they were dealing with something far more dangerous than spears or swords. They were facing a people who knew the invisible, and those who know the invisible do not succumb to fear. The religions that were imposed brought with them a new way of seeing the spiritual world, a way that divided, that punished, that distanced human beings from their essence. It was taught that God was far away, in heaven, and that he could only be accessed through chosen figures. It was repeated that everything that came from Africa was sinful, that the drums summoned demons, that the dances were immoral, that the oracles were abominations. But all of this was a construction. a very well-elaborated project to erase the spiritual memory of millions of people. And here's a point few dare to touch upon. Many passages from the Bible itself have been reinterpreted over the centuries to reinforce this idea. There are passages that speak of prophetic dreams, visions, the use of incense, consecration with oil, communication with angels, spiritual manifestations. All of this is also present in African spirituality, but with different names, different symbols, a different cultural guise. However, when these same elements appeared in African contexts, they were treated as works of the evil one. Why this difference in judgment? Because there was a clear intention to devalue everything that came from African roots. For example, in ancient Hebrew tradition, the use of stones, herbs, incense, and purification rituals was common. Prophets fasted, danced, and went into trances. King David in several psalms spoke of playing the drums, dancing before the Lord, and crying out with the body. But when an African does this, is it witchcraft? When an elderly African woman prays singing in her ancestral language, is it superstition? No. What happened was a systematic demonization of black spirituality, and this was done in a planned way. Another striking example is the figure of the three wise men. They came from the East, bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh, elements with profound spiritual meanings. These were not merely symbolic gifts, they were spiritual offerings, possessing energetic power. Frankincense was used for cleansing, myrrh for protection, and gold as an element of honor. This too is African spirituality. This too is ancestral knowledge. But it has been whitewashed, romanticized, and disconnected from its true origins. And what's most serious is that, over the centuries, this distorted view has been reproduced by the very victims of the system. Many descendants of Africans have come to reject their own spirituality, to feel ashamed of their rituals, to distrust the teachings that came from their grandparents. The mental colonization was so profound that it caused the people to abandon their own power and kneel before images that had nothing to do with their essence. But African spirituality did not die. It resisted, it adapted. It survived in the subtext, in whispered chants, in recipes passed down through ears, in gestures inherited without explanation. And now it is awakening again, because times are changing, because souls are crying out for truth, because the spirit is tired of being fed with fear, guilt, and repression. What was once seen as dangerous is now beginning to be recognized as medicine. What was called witchcraft is now understood as connection. What they tried to extinguish now shines brighter than ever. And this brilliance comes from its roots. It comes from its people. It comes from its ancestry. That's why this video is so important, because it's giving you back something that someone tried to take away. It's not just information, it's recognition, it's identity, it's memory. And if you've made it this far, feeling that warmth in your chest, that shiver down your spine, that emotion that's hard to explain, that's your spirit reacting. It's your Ori recognizing a truth that was dormant. It's your Akse moving. So, stay with me, because in what comes next, we're going to begin to understand how this spiritual reconnection can transform your life from the inside out. But before that, I want to hear from you. Comment below, have you ever been taught to fear African spirituality? Have you ever heard that it was wrong, dangerous, or evil? How has it been for you to hear all of this so far? Write in the comments. They are trying to erase my roots, but I am awakening. And together we will show that this truth can no longer be silenced. What if what we call African spirituality today is more present in the scriptures than we imagine? What if what many consider heresy is, in fact, a forgotten part of biblical roots? The truth is that there are clues scattered throughout the Bible that point to practices and principles that deeply resonate with ancestral African wisdom. And when we begin to observe with spiritual eyes, and not with colonial filters, we realize that the similarities are too strong to be coincidence. Let's look first at Egypt, or rather Kemet, the land where Moses was raised. Moses was rescued by an Egyptian princess. He grew up within the temples of Kemet. He was educated with the highest knowledge of that civilization. Before freeing the Hebrews, before ascending the mountain, before hearing the voice in the fire, Moses was initiated among priests who understood the balance between the visible and the invisible. And there's no denying it. He carried with him part of that spiritual wisdom. It is curious to note that when God manifests himself to Moses, he chooses the form of a burning bush that is not consumed, a profoundly spiritual symbol. Elemental, fire that does not destroy, but communicates. This directly relates us to the elements of nature as mediators of the divine, something present both in the Old Testament and in African spirituality, where fire, water, wind, and earth are seen as portals of revelation. And there's more. Moses used a staff, a symbol of spiritual authority, that transformed into a serpent. Have you ever noticed that? A serpent, the same symbol present in the crowns of the pharaohs, representing vital energy, spiritual protection, and ancestral wisdom. Moses' staff was not just a support object, but a magical sacred instrument used to part the sea, invoke plagues, and communicate with the heavens. This is very similar to the ritual objects used in African spiritual traditions: staffs, stones, mirrors, and consecrated necklaces, all carrying axe, spiritual energy, all activated with purpose. What we are seeing here is that biblical spirituality, especially in the Old Testament, was not dogmatic, cold, or institutionalized. It was alive, intuitive, connected to nature, dreams, visions, and symbols, exactly as happens in ancestral African traditions. And if you observe carefully, you will see that the prophets of the Bible acted very similarly to African priests and initiates. They received revelations through dreams, entered trance states, interpreted signs, and used symbolic objects to channel divine messages. Joseph, for example, interpreted dreams with profound spiritual precision. It was through dreams that he changed the destiny of Egypt and saved entire peoples from famine. But stop and think. Interpreting dreams is common in many African cultures. It is a valued, cultivated, and trained gift. Within villages and communities, there are elders and priests who, for millennia, have interpreted the dream world with the same reverence that Joseph demonstrated in Egypt. And what about Ezekiel, the prophet who had visions of flaming wheels, of four-faced beings, of heaven's opening? Does that sound rational? Or does it seem more like a guided spiritual journey, where symbols and archetypes manifest to reveal deeper truths? That is spirituality in its rawest form. And this type of experience is also present in African traditions, where spiritual vision is cultivated from an early age, and the messages from Orun are received with the heart and interpreted with wisdom. Even the idea of sacrifice, which many associate exclusively with African traditions, is present in the scriptures. The sacrifice of animals, incense, and food as a way of offering to the divine appears from Genesis to Revelation. Abel, Noah, Abraham, all made ritual offerings, and the Bible never said that this was evil. The problem is not the act itself, but the intention, the heart, the conscience behind it. Another powerful parallel can be found in the Psalms of David. Many of them are veritable hymns. David spoke to God by dancing, playing instruments, and crying out with strength. He invoked the name of the Most High with music, with praise, with movement of body and spirit. This is living liturgy. It is integral spiritual expression. And that is exactly what happens in Afro-ancestral worship. There, music is not entertainment. It is spiritual technology. It is a bridge. It is invocation. It's impossible not to recognize these connections. The use of salt, water, oils, perfumes, colors, numbers, sacred names. All of this is in the Bible. All of this is in African spirituality. The difference? One was whitewashed, canonized, accepted. The other was marginalized, fought against, silenced. But both came from the same spiritual matrix that pulsates in the heart of humanity. A matrix that recognizes that the human being is body, soul, and spirit, and that communication with the divine occurs through multiple paths, including through symbols, images, and elements. If you stop and really observe, you will see that the entire Old Testament is full of spiritual codes that have a direct echo in African practices. The problem is that the interpretation has been shaped by political, religious, and colonial interests. For centuries, we have been taught to read the Bible with the eyes of the oppressor. But when you begin to read with the eyes of the Spirit, everything changes. You begin to realize that the Bible isn't distancing you from your ancestry. On the contrary, it's constantly reminding you of your connection to the sacred, to the elements, to dreams, to symbols. It's telling you that the divine speaks to you all the time, not only in temples, but in the winds, in the leaves, in animals, in stones, in your ori, spiritual essence. And that is why this reconciliation between the Bible and African spirituality is so important, because it heals a deep wound. It shows that there is no separation between faith and ancestry, that we don't need to choose between God and our own people, that the sacred can indeed have color, rhythm, body, voice, and African roots. Now that you're seeing these connections more clearly, I want to know, did this make sense to you? Had you noticed these clues before? Had you already made these connections between the Bible and ancestral spiritual practices? Tell me in the comments. Write the phrase, "Now I see what they hid from me," if something inside you is awakening at this moment. And now that you're starting to see with different eyes what previously seemed disconnected, perhaps you're feeling, even subtly, an energy that comes not only from the content, but from the very vibration that this conversation carries. This is no coincidence. Because when we talk about African spirituality, we are also talking about sound, rhythm, frequency, and more than that, we are talking about the language of the gods. In ancestral spirituality, the word was never merely articulated sound. The word is spirit. It is an arrow. It is a tool. It is a spell. Every word carries energy. Every word spoken with intention traverses dimensions. The verb, when pronounced consciously, is capable of healing or wounding, opening paths or locking doors, liberating or imprisoning. That is why the ancients were so careful with what they said, because they knew that speaking is creating, and creating demands responsibility. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. This statement is not merely a poetic metaphor. It is a spiritual code. It reveals to us that the creation of the world did not begin with a gesture, but with a sound, an original sound, a creative sound, a sound that vibrated so deeply that it gave form to matter. And this original vibration still echoes in the universe. It is still available to be accessed, used, channeled. And that is exactly what the ancient Africans knew how to do with mastery. Through sacred chants, mantras, and prayers intoned in ancient languages, priests and initiates activated codes of healing, protection, and connection with higher planes. It wasn't just music. It was spiritual technology. It was vibrational science. It was, in fact, the conscious manipulation of energy. And when we speak of manipulation here, we don't mean it in a negative sense. We mean it in the original sense of the word, to shape, transform, and channel energy with purpose. Drums, for example, are one of the most powerful tools of African spirituality. When the drum plays, it is not just marking time. It is invoking. It is calling. It is opening portals. Each beat has a specific frequency. Each rhythm carries a message that the spirits understand. And it is no coincidence that, in many rituals, the drums are the first to speak. Because they are the ones that announce the arrival of the sacred. They are the ones that prepare the energy field, that cleanse, that align, that awaken what was dormant. And perhaps you yourself have already felt this, that shiver when you hear an ancient beat, that warmth in your chest when you hear a chant you don't even understand, but that seems to pass through you, that moment when your body begins to move on its own, guided by something you can't explain. That is vibrational memory. It is your soul reacting to the call of sacred sound. And the most beautiful thing is that there is no separation between body and spirit in this process. When you sing, you pray. When you dance, you align yourself. When you get into the rhythm, you leave the mental chaos. And this is one of the great healings of African spirituality. It doesn't ask you to just think about the divine. It invites you to feel, to live, to experience with your whole body. Because the body is also a temple. The body is an instrument. It's an antenna. It's an altar. There are African mantras that have been passed down orally for centuries, which activate energy centers in the body as if they were keys. There are words that, when pronounced with reverence, adjust the frequency of the mind, the heart, and even the surrounding environment. And all this without the need for grand ceremonies. Sometimes, a word spoken truthfully, in a whisper, at the right moment, is enough to move spiritual mountains. And it's worth remembering that this knowledge is not lost. It's dormant. It's in the blood. It's in the language of the grandmother who prayed softly, in the songs that seemed simple but carried hidden codes. in the popular expressions that, without realizing it, invoke protection, faith, strength. Because the magic word is not the one full of esoteric complications. The magic word is the one that comes from the heart in alignment with the spirit, and if words carry power, song multiplies it. Because song has rhythm, it has resonance, it has emotion. When someone sings to the sacred, the sound doesn't just rise as music. It rises as an offering. It rises as a message. It rises as a bridge between worlds. That's why, in houses of African tradition, singing is always collective. Because when many voices unite with a single purpose, the universe responds. The vibration expands. The axe moves. Rhythm, then, is the third element of this divine language. The word is the seed. Song is the water. Rhythm is the sun. Rhythm is what accelerates, what warms, what energizes. It marks the time of the ritual, the time of healing, the time of surrender. And the more aligned it is with the natural rhythm of the earth and the celestial bodies, the more powerful it becomes. Today, many scientific studies are beginning to prove what Africans have known for millennia. Sound frequency can heal. Certain tones reorganize cells. Certain beats induce meditative states. Certain vibrations dissolve emotional blockages. And this is nothing new for those who experience spirituality holistically, because the true initiate has always known that sound is one of the most direct paths to the divine. And perhaps that's why so many African rituals have been banned, fought against, discredited, because they didn't need luxurious temples, sacred books, or religious structures. A circle, a drum, a voice, and a true intention were enough. That was sufficient to transform any given night into an encounter with the sacred, and that was dangerous for those who wanted to monopolize access to the divine. But today that sound is returning. It's echoing in the outskirts, in the forests, in the discreet altars, in the healing circles. It's awakening in people who have never touched a drum, but feel the vibration when they listen. People who have never sung a chant, but are moved just by hearing it. Because, deep down, the language of the gods never stopped speaking. It was we who stopped listening. And perhaps this video is helping you to listen again, to realize that your spirituality doesn't need to be silent, timid, or restrained, that it can be vibrant, sonorous, dancing, that it can, and should, involve all the senses, all the chakras, all the planes of existence. And now I want to know, do you feel that certain songs or rhythms touch you deeply? Have you ever had a spiritual experience through a sound, a prayer, a song? Tell me in the comments. Write the phrase, "I am made of sound and spirit," if this content is awakening that ancestral memory in you. If you've made it this far, you've probably already begun to feel that there's something much bigger behind what has long been called superstition. By now, your heart must have realized that what was labeled pagan actually carries a profound wisdom, a complex spiritual structure, and ancestral knowledge that has survived despite all efforts to silence it. And now it's time to talk about something that still causes a lot of fear and confusion in those who grew up disconnected from their own roots: the Orishas. It's astonishing how this word still frightens so many people, even though it's a living and legitimate part of African spirituality, and especially of the spiritual identity of Black people. But the Orishas are not rival gods of God. They do not compete with the Creator. They do not demand blind worship, nor do they feed spiritual vanities. They are forces of nature with consciousness, spiritual archetypes that represent universal energies. They are, in a way, parts of creation that act as arms of the divine, as specific expressions of God Himself in different aspects of life. Imagine that the Creator is the sun, unique, absolute, the source of all light. The Orishas are the rays that emanate from this sun and touch the earth. No ray is the sun in its entirety, but all carry its essence, its energy, its function. This is how the spiritual system works in this ancestral system. God remains supreme, but He manifests Himself in various forms to reach human beings in different situations, needs, learning experiences, and phases of life. Each Orisha represents a power of nature combined with a spiritual virtue. They are much more than religious figures. They are living models of behavior, wisdom, strength, and balance. Ogun, for example, is the Orisha who represents strength, courage, overcoming obstacles, and advancing on one's path. But he also represents fire, iron, technology, the energy that builds and destroys with purpose. Isn't it curious that he is associated with St. George in Christian syncretism? A mounted warrior, armed with a sword, vanquishing evil. A symbol of just struggle, of spiritual protection. Iansa is the strong wind, the storm that transforms, the passion that moves. She is not only the Lady of Lightning, she is the guardian of souls, the one who dances between worlds and helps spirits cross the portals. Just as the Holy Spirit is breath, Iansa is the wind that blows and cleanses, that announces change and breaks stagnation. Oxum is the calm and sweet river, the welcoming love, fertility, and profound intuition. She is the voice of spiritual sensitivity, of healing beauty, of water that flows gently, but molds even the hardest stone. Is it possible not to compare her to the Virgin Mary in her archetype of a loving, sweet, protective mother who intercedes with tenderness? Shango, Lord of Justice, is the thunder that judges, the firm rock that sustains, the fire that purifies. He does not compromise principles. He is the scales of life. And just as in the Bible we see the figures of judges, kings, and prophets who spoke in the name of divine justice, Shango represents this power, not as vengeance, but as cosmic balance. Akshasi, the silent hunter, represents wisdom, precision, and strategic intelligence. He is the Oryxa of knowledge, nourishment, and living nature. He embodies the same spirit of contemplation and connection with creation that we see in biblical figures like Elijah, who hid in the forests, fed on what the earth provided, and listened to the voice of God in the whisper of the wind. If we look at the elements, fire, water, earth, and air, we realize that they are, in fact, spiritual dimensions, not just physical resources. Fire represents transformation, the destruction of the old to make way for the new, spiritual courage. Water, in turn, is the element of emotion, of energetic cleansing, of connection with ancestral memory. Earth is the foundation, the welcoming, the nourishing. Air is movement, the word, communication between planes. And each Orisha governs one or more of these elements, acting as guardian and transmitter of their powers. But the most impressive thing about all this is realizing that the Orishas are not just external energies. They are also within us. Each person carries one or more of these archetypes, manifesting their characteristics and personality, behaviors, talents, and spiritual challenges. This means that knowing the Orishas is not about distancing yourself from yourself, but about getting closer. It's about understanding yourself deeply. It's about discovering which spiritual force vibrates strongest in your blood, which ancestral path pulsates in your heart. This wisdom doesn't come through imposition. It comes through observation, respect, and listening. The ancients knew that nature speaks, that the body responds, that dreams reveal, that the spirit points. That's why rituals, oracles, chants, and baths are ways to align the body with the energy of the Orisha. Not as idolatry, but as a reconnection with the forces that inhabit and surround you. And perhaps that's why it has been so fiercely fought against. Because when you recognize that the divine manifests itself in multiple forms, you understand that you can dialogue directly with it, without needing to go through institutions that charge, judge, or limit. You realize that the sacred is in the river, in the forest, in the wind, in your own silence. You understand that you yourself are part of the mystery, and the more you recognize this, the more you heal. Because you stop waiting for external approval to live your faith. Because you stop fighting against your spiritual heritage. Because you begin to honor those who came before, to respect the cycles of life, and to walk with greater awareness of who you are and what force guides you. Perhaps, as you hear all this, you are beginning to remember. Not remember with your mind, but with your body, with your soul. That feeling of familiarity, of shivers, of connection. That is your Ori telling you that this truth is yours. That it was only dormant. That now is the time to awaken and embrace your spirituality with courage and dignity. And now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever felt an affinity with any of these archetypes? Have you noticed that some force of nature calls to you, guides you, or protects you? Write here the phrase, "I recognize the Orishas as part of the divine." If this content touched you and opened some door within you. If until now you have begun to recognize within yourself these forces that the system tried to hide, now is the time to understand one of the most sacred keys that African spirituality has preserved even in the face of centuries of persecution. Healing. But I'm not just talking about healing the physical body. I'm talking about a much deeper, much broader healing. A healing that traverses the body, soul, and spirit at the same time. A healing that treats not only the symptoms, but the invisible causes behind human suffering. In African spirituality, illness is never seen as a simple, isolated physical problem. Every ailment has an energetic, emotional, or spiritual origin. The body falls ill when the soul is out of balance, when the spirit is disconnected, when Akse, that vital force that moves us, is blocked. This is why the ancients never separated medicine from spirituality. They knew that true healing only happens when all dimensions of being are treated together, and not in a fragmented way. And this is where a key figure comes in, the priest. But unlike the Western idea of a distant religious leader, the priest in African traditions is someone who deeply understands nature, the cycles of life, human behavior, and, above all, the language of spirits. He or she, because yes, many priestesses also have this role, acts as a mediator between worlds. He listens to what the body says, but also to what the spirit is silently shouting. The priest observes the person with eyes that pierce through the flesh. He perceives the vibration, the walk, the speech, the dreams, the sparkle in the eyes, the scent of the body, the weight of the step. And often, even before any word is spoken, he already senses which orisha is out of balance, which part of the ori is in conflict, which ancestral memory needs to be healed. This is not divination. It is transmitted wisdom, trained spiritual sensitivity, a living connection with invisible forces. And when the diagnosis is made, not just in the body, but in the soul, the treatment begins. And that's where elements come in that, to modern eyes, may seem simple, but which carry an incalculable spiritual force. Herbs, for example, are more than medicinal plants. They are plant spirits. Each leaf has a specific energy, a spiritual function, a mission. And the priest knows which leaf calms, which leaf cleanses, which leaf repels, which leaf attracts. This is not superstition. It is profound spiritual science, passed down orally from generation to generation, proven in practice for centuries. Herbal baths are not just baths. They are true rituals of energetic rebalancing. They cleanse the aura, undo spiritual knots, and wash away painful memories that the body can no longer sustain. And often, when taking a bath prepared with faith, intention, and knowledge, the person immediately feels relief, lightness, and the return of stagnant Akse, spiritual energy. Beyond herbs, there is also the role of food. Eating is not just about nourishing the body. It is also a sacred act. In African tradition, everything that enters the body must be consecrated, blessed, and intended. Because food is life. It is frequency. And food prepared with love, with song, with prayer, with Akse, spiritual energy, becomes spiritual medicine. It is not uncommon to hear stories of people who began to heal simply by changing their relationship with what they ate, with who prepared it, and with how they ate. Words can also heal. And this is one of the greatest powers of African traditions. The priest knows that words have weight. A word spoken with truth can break spells, undo traumas, reconnect someone's ori, spiritual essence, to its purpose. There are prayers, chants, and invocations that function like spiritual scalpels, cutting away what is rotting inside and making room for the light to return. That is why spiritual gatherings, consultations, and rituals are not moments of fear, as many have been taught to believe. They are moments of healing, of liberation, of reunion. They are spaces where crying is not weakness but release, where the body can express itself without judgment, where the spirit finds rest, where the wounded child within each of us finds comfort. And this healing is not limited to the individual, it is communal, because in African traditions, the suffering of one affects the whole. The healing of one uplifts all. When a person cleanses themselves, they also cleanse their lineage, their descendants, their home. And that is why it is so common that upon spiritual healing, someone feels that their whole life has begun to fall into place. Doors open, conflicts dissolve, illnesses recede, relationships align, because the Akse, spiritual energy, has begun to circulate again. There are many stories passed down orally that prove this. cases of people who were given up on by conventional medicine but who, upon seeking a spiritual center, found healing where science had given up. People with mysterious pains, recurring illnesses, deep depressions, who, after undergoing a ritual of cleansing, spiritual guidance, and realignment with their ori, spiritual essence, were reborn. And these stories are not exceptions. They are part of an ancient knowledge that has always been available, but which has been systematically discredited to keep people away from their own strength. And the most incredible thing is that this healing doesn't depend on blind faith, nor on absolute beliefs. It depends on openness, on listening, on surrender. It requires you to allow yourself to look beyond logic, to honor the signs, to respect what you feel, because the body speaks, the spirit cries out, the soul shows the way, and when you truly begin to listen, healing happens, sometimes slowly, sometimes like a lightning bolt, but it happens. And at this moment, perhaps you are feeling something different inside, a nameless emotion, a memory that isn't from the mind, a warmth in your heart, a desire to breathe deeper. This is also healing. This is your spirit reacting to the truth. This is a sign that something is stirring within you, and it doesn't matter how long you've been away from yourself. African spirituality doesn't judge. It welcomes, it cares, it cleanses, it rebuilds. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced any kind of spiritual healing? Have you ever had an experience where you felt that it wasn't just your body that was being healed, but your soul as well? Share with me in the comments. Write the phrase, "I am healing from the inside out," if this video is helping you in this process of reconnecting with your spirituality. And even after everything you've heard so far, even after so much ancestral knowledge resisting time, chains, and lies, the persecution hasn't ended. It hasn't finished. It has only changed form. What was once whip and chain today presents itself as prejudice disguised as opinion, as intolerance masked as faith, as racism disguised as morality. African spirituality, to this day, continues to be marginalized, made invisible, and attacked by a system that feeds on ignorance and fear. How many times have you seen someone cross themselves upon hearing the word Oriksa? How many times has a drum been mistaken for witchcraft? How many times has someone mocked a necklace worn by a black person, as if it were a sign of spiritual inferiority? This is not a coincidence. This is a direct result of centuries of mental colonization. And the cruelest part is that this marginalization is still sustained today by religious and social structures that fear the power this spirituality carries. Because when black people reconnect with their spiritual essence, they become uncontrollable. They break free from imposed narratives. They begin to walk with dignity, with strength, with the awareness that they carry within themselves a sacred lineage. And this is dangerous for any system that depends on submission. That is why, from an early age, black people are taught to fear their own culture. They are taught to erase their name, to deny their history, to exchange their rituals for practices that do not resonate with their soul. It's a deliberate disconnection, a calculated strategy. Removing black people from their spiritual foundation is like pulling the roots of a tree and expecting it to flourish. And when that tree gets sick, they say it's because it's worthless. But they never mention that it was uprooted from the earth that sustained it. This symbolic violence is so profound that many still don't realize how far they've been separated from themselves. How many people grew up in churches that said everything that came from Africa was the work of the devil? How many spent their lives praying to a white heaven while feeling ashamed of their dark skin? And this isn't about attacking any belief. It's about showing that spirituality shouldn't oppress anyone, but rather liberate. The problem isn't what you believe. The problem is when that belief is used as a weapon to invalidate someone else's faith, when it becomes a tool for exclusion, judgment, and erasure, when it says there's only one path and that all others are a curse. This is what we call religious racism, and it's everywhere. It's in textbooks that don't talk about the African worldview. It's in soap operas that only show African-based rituals in negative contexts. It's in the speeches of religious leaders who demonize sacred symbols without ever having studied what they really mean. It's in schools that teach the history of Egypt as if it weren't Africa. It's in the sideways glances, the jokes, the sensationalist news reports. It's even in the communities themselves, where black people are afraid to embrace their ancestral faith for fear of judgment. And this fear is not unfounded. Many priests and priestesses of Candomblé still suffer physical attacks, have their temples invaded, and their sacred spaces vandalized. Children are expelled from schools for wearing ritual clothing. Families are threatened for maintaining ancestral spiritual practices within their homes. All this in the 21st century. All this because this spirituality still frightens those who do not understand it, and even more so those who know its power. But despite all these attempts at erasure, African spirituality resists. It survives at crossroads, in forests, in backyards, in drum circles, in healers, in grandmothers who still know the names of herbs, in young people who return to seek their history. It resists in every body that dances with reverence, in every prayer whispered at the foot of a tree, in every candle lit with faith. More than a religion, more than a set of beliefs, this spirituality is a form of resistance. It's a way of keeping alive the identity of a people who have been systematically dehumanized. It's about raising your head and saying, I know where I came from. I honor those who came before me. I walk with Akse. And that, in itself, is already a revolution. Because while they try to convince us that spirituality is something you wear in a suit and tie, we continue to prove that the sacred is also in the shawl, the beaded necklace, the bare feet, the drum that speaks. We continue to show that spirituality is not about appearance, but about essence. It's not about fear, but about courage. It's not about condemning, but about welcoming. And that's why it's so important to talk about it. Because every time one of us embraces our ancestral faith, another is also encouraged. Every time we illuminate what has been hidden, someone else rediscovers themselves. Every time we say this too is sacred, we open space for others to also heal from the silence that has been imposed upon them. African spirituality continues to be marginalized, but it has never ceased to be a source of wisdom, strength, healing, and truth. And the more they try to extinguish it, the stronger it becomes, because it is born from the earth, the wind, the fire, and the water, and no one can silence what nature shouts. And perhaps throughout this video you felt that calling. Perhaps something inside you was disturbed but at the same time warmed. Perhaps you remembered something that was never told to you, but that always seems to have been there inside. That is your spirit recognizing its roots. And when that happens, there's no going back. The truth, once recognized, can no longer be unseen. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed or experienced prejudice against religions of African origin? How did you deal with it? And if this content touched you, write the phrase, "My faith is also sacred" below, so we can show together that this ancestral spirituality is alive, strong, and deserves respect. After everything that has been said so far, perhaps you are wondering, but are people really waking up to all this? Is this reconnection with African roots really happening? And I tell you firmly, yes, it is happening. It is growing. It is silently blossoming within thousands of people who, even without fully understanding what is happening, feel an inner force calling them back. A call that does not come from the mind, but from the soul. A fire that does not burn, but illuminates. An ancestral echo that crosses time, space, and the spiritual colonization that they tried to impose on us. What we've been seeing in recent years is a genuine return movement, a return that is not a fad, not rebellion, not spiritual vanity. It's an organic, legitimate, and necessary movement of people, especially young people, who are tired of living a spirituality that doesn't represent their identity, their history, their skin, their blood. Young people who grew up hearing that their ancestral faith was wrong, but who are now opening their eyes and realizing that true faith is the one that liberates you, not the one that condemns you. And this awakening is no longer limited to secret rituals, nor hidden away in distant religious centers. It is also happening in the digital world, on social media, in videos like this one, in spaces where previously only Eurocentric spirituality was discussed. The internet, which so often served to propagate prejudice, is now being used as a tool for reconnection. People who never had access to books, who lacked family support, who grew up in intolerant religious environments, are now finding the beginning of a new journey on their cell phone screens. It's beautiful to see young people who were once ashamed of their origins now wearing guides with pride, speaking confidently about orishas, studying the fundamentals of African spirituality with seriousness and respect. And the most interesting thing is that the more they delve into it, the more they discover that this faith has nothing to do with the fear they were taught. On the contrary, it heals traumas, rebuilds self-esteem, strengthens the Ori, spiritual essence, teaches the power of collectivity, and shows that the divine dwells within us, and not just in foreign images. And in this return, profound things happen. It's not just a reunion with a religion, it's a reunion with who you are. It's as if each chant, each drumbeat, each word in Yoruba activates a hidden code in the person's spiritual DNA. People who previously lived without meaning, without a foundation, without perspective, begin to find purpose, direction, and peace. And not because someone told them to believe, but because it finally makes sense within their hearts. I've seen many accounts of transformation like this. People who were completely lost emotionally, going through deep depression, existential crises, feeling a nameless emptiness, and who, by making a simple offering with faith, by taking a carefully prepared herbal bath, by participating in a spiritual circle, felt their whole body vibrate, as if a veil had been lifted from their eyes. It's not about magic. It's about spiritual memory awakening. It's about the soul remembering where it came from. And it's important to understand that this awakening doesn't require perfection. Many people think they need to know everything to begin. But African spirituality doesn't demand intellectual knowledge. It demands truth, sincerity, respect, intention. It's possible to start with little, with humility, with an open heart. Each step taken with reverence is a step closer to your Ori, your Akse, your deepest truth. And the beauty of this path is that it doesn't isolate you. It integrates you. It connects you with others who are also remembering. Today there are groups, circles, courses, channels, entire communities formed by people who are walking together in this awakening. People who once felt alone now find acceptance. And this collectivity is one of the greatest forces of ancestral spirituality. Because healing is stronger when it is shared. Akse, spiritual energy, circulates with more power when it is divided. And the sacred manifests with greater presence when it is celebrated in a circle, in song, in unity. And here's something curious. Even those who don't formally follow any Afro-Brazilian religion, upon delving deeper into this universe, begin to realize that many elements have always been there. An intuitive respect for nature, an inexplicable connection with dreams, a feeling of protection coming from an invisible force, an energetic sensitivity that no one taught, but that has always been present. All of this is a sign that the spirit never forgot. It was just waiting for the opportunity to manifest itself clearly. That is why this movement is irreversible, because it is not driven by dogma nor by obligation. It is born from within, it is guided by the Ori, it is nourished by the Akse of each one. And when this fire ignites, no argument, judgment, or criticism can extinguish it, because it is a truth that is recognized with the soul, a spirituality that does not demand masks, but rather presence, a calling that does not come from outside, but from the deepest part of your essence. And in this process, we also learn to have compassion. For others, yes, but especially for ourselves. We understand that we were taught to hate ourselves, that we were molded to be ashamed of our own sacredness, and that carrying guilt for this makes no sense. What makes sense is forgiveness. It's welcoming that spiritual child that was denied, and telling it, now you can come back, now you can flourish, now you are free to be whole. This is what is happening to thousands of people, and if you feel that this is also happening to you, then you are already part of this movement. Even if you are still at the beginning, even if you still have doubts, even if you feel fear, because spiritual awakening doesn't require certainty. It requires courage. Courage to look inward, to listen, to allow yourself to remember. And now I want to know from you. Do you feel you are experiencing this spiritual awakening? Have you already begun to reconnect with your ancestry? Have you felt the call of your spiritual roots? Tell me in the comments. And if this video touched something deep within you, write the phrase, "My ancestry is awakening within me," so we can create a chain of Akse, spiritual energy, that inspires even more people to begin this journey. If you've made it this far, it means you've traveled a long road of knowledge, memories, and revelations. And perhaps now you're feeling something different inside. A warmth, a diffuse memory, a subtle restlessness, almost as if a part of you has been awakened from a very deep sleep. And that's exactly the point. Because African spirituality is not just a set of beliefs or rituals, it is memory. It is living ancestry. It is a force that has pulsed within you for millennia, and that, for centuries, has been hidden, marginalized, distorted, and even devalued, but it never ceased to exist. It was just waiting for the right moment to manifest itself. Now, I want you to do a simple but powerful exercise. Take a deep breath and imagine that everything you've been taught about spirituality, everything you've heard since childhood, all the interpretations that shaped your view of God, the sacred and the invisible, is incomplete. Imagine there's been a cut, a gap, a part that has been systematically erased from you. And this forgotten part, this buried root, isn't in distant temples, nor in expensive books, nor in doctrines that promise heaven, but don't connect you with life. It's in your ancestry. It's in the African traditions that resisted oppression. It's in the practices, the chants, the drums, the mantras, the orishas, the earth, the water, the wind, and the fire. It's within your blood, your akse, your ori. Looking at African spirituality without prejudice is, in fact, an act of courage. It's recognizing that what you were taught to fear or despise may be exactly the missing key to feeling complete, aligned, and strong. It's realizing that there isn't just one path to the divine, but multiple paths, all legitimate, all sacred, all capable of transforming those who approach with reverence and attention. And this is where true awakening happens. When you allow this wisdom to be lived, not just studied. When you let it touch your heart, your mind, and your spirit simultaneously. And to make this connection practical, you don't need grand ceremonies or secret knowledge. There are simple, accessible rituals that can activate this energy within you. An herbal bath to cleanse the aura, a prayer or mantra chanted with intention, lighting a candle and meditating, connecting with the elements, water, fire, earth, and air, or simply listening to ancestral drums and allowing your body to feel the vibration of akse. Every conscious gesture is a bridge between you and the sacred. Every action you perform with intention opens a door to your ori, to your inner wisdom, to alignment with your life purpose. And the more you practice, the more you realize that this spirituality is not distant. It is all around you, ready to manifest in every step, in every decision, in every choice. What's most fascinating is that African spirituality not only reconnects you with yourself, but also with those who came before you. It brings to light the history of your family, your culture, your race, your identity. It makes you realize that you are not alone, that you are part of an ancestral movement of resistance, wisdom, and spiritual strength. And when you understand this, when you feel this, a profound transformation begins to happen. You start to see yourself differently, to look at the world with more sensitivity, to perceive signs, coincidences, and messages that previously seemed invisible. You begin to understand that everything around you is energy, that everything around you can be a channel for healing and growth, and that you yourself are capable of manifesting and harmonizing these forces in your daily life. And it is precisely at this point that I want to propose something for you to reflect on now. Throughout this video, we have journeyed together through the history, the mysteries, the practices, the symbols, and the orishas. We have seen how African spirituality has been silenced, marginalized, and reinterpreted, and how, even so, it continues to be alive and vibrant within us. We have seen the transformative role of the word, of song, of rhythm, of herbs, of the elements, and of reconnection with ori and akse. We have also seen how young people are reclaiming their spiritual identity, and how this awakening is happening within us, even in the midst of modernity. And now I ask you, what if everything you sought most spiritually, all the wisdom, all the protection, all the clarity, and all the balance you felt, was lacking throughout your life, was exactly in your forgotten roots? What if what you thought was outside was, in fact, inside you all along, just waiting for you to look inward, to listen to yourself, to reconnect with your ancestry? Think about it. Feel it. Allow yourself to feel that power, healing, and truth are not something distant, but part of your blood, your history, your very essence. Now I want to hear from you. What feeling did this video awaken in you? How do you feel realizing that the spirituality that connects you to the divine may be precisely within your ancestry? Tell me in the comments. Write the phrase, "My roots are awakening," if you feel that this message touched you deeply and that you are ready to reclaim your own truth. If you've made it this far, it means you've truly connected with this ancestral journey and that something within you has begun to awaken. So, before we finish, I want to ask you a few very important things. Subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss any content that will help you further deepen this reconnection with your roots and strengthen your spirituality. And leave a comment below. I want you to write the phrase, "My roots are awakening," if this video brought something new to you, or share a personal experience about how you feel connected to your ancestry. Your comments are valuable, not only to me, but to the entire community that is seeking awakening along with you. If you enjoyed this video, please like it now because that's the only way we can show more people this powerful message that was hidden. And it doesn't stop here. The next video I've prepared will appear on the screen, which will take you even deeper on this path of spiritual reconnection and ancestral wisdom. Watch it now because every second of this content will further awaken your Akse and strengthen your connection with your Ori. Let's embark on this journey together.